it's just, I don't know. I don't know how and where is the answer. But certainly we want to see politicians who are truly, deeply concerned about it.
Well, and there are, and I mean, there are people who got arrested last week, elected officials in Albany, about the rent regulation laws, to strengthen those, to bring apartments that are up to $5,000 a month to make them rent regulated, because it stops at $2,500 now. The mayor and others have tried to work. There's a thing called a 421A tax credit, which allows developers a lot of times to build very big buildings and not pay taxes, property taxes, for 25 years. To change that, to make it so that there's more affordable housing when they build these buildings, so that the city gets more for giving them this giant break, which is a giant cut in their property tax bill for a very, very long time. And so I think there are people who care about it. I think the problem is there are a lot of people who are on the other side, who don't care about it. You know, the Senate Republicans, and that's the reason, going back to why having a Democratic Party that is transparent and honest, that people think is really reacting to their needs and that are good people are a part of it. Because you have a Senate, a state Senate that's controlled by the Republican Party.
Which is, this is a different,
and where every single one of them, except for one member, is from Long Island, the suburbs, or upstate. So there's not a single person except one from the city who's a Republican. They control all the bills, because all the state senators from the city are all Democrats. They control all the bills that go up. And, you know, they've stopped so many rent regulation laws, from strengthening rent regulation laws for years and years. And that's why I find local politics so important, because, look, I like national politics. It's very interesting
but
to
you
hear about. But
you got to come home. Right here.
Well,
we need you here.
And that's what's going to affect you. It's going to affect you a lot more what's going on on your block, in your city, than what's going on halfway around the world.
Political arenas. I want to talk about your writing, your work. You see, because time, it goes so fast, and you're knowledgeable. You know, I'm listening to you. I'm listening, but it's overwhelming. Not overwhelming. I want to make sure that we cover
all bases.
We cover as much as we can. Hillary Clinton. What's your take?
I like Hillary. I like Bernie Sanders too. I think the big thing is I think Hillary will be the nominee. Not that I'm going to choose that at all. And I think, you know, she'll probably be the most qualified person to be president if she gets elected ever. I mean, she's probably the only person who was involved in 2 White Houses that extensively, as First Lady, as Secretary of State. So clearly she knows how to do the job. And I think it's very important to have a female president. I think that the fact that so many other countries...
It's going to happen for a fact.
I don't know.
What do you think is going to happen?
I think the Democratic Party is very strong nationally because of certain trends that I think Barack Obama really helped push forward.
Right, but his popularity is not, even with the ISIS situation, we're not going to go there, but it's the whole thing, the way that it's been, the government and the White House.
But I mean, I think
the numbers are increasing. His popularity is just going down.
I think he gets a lot. I think he's got a really, really tough job. I mean, I think it's really hard.
Are you kidding me? He developed white hair the following day after 60 days. I couldn't believe it, Robert. I was in an interview. He got his hair all white.
And I mean, this, you know, the Republicans, you know, refuse to do anything that he does.
I mean, but God, it's just... I love Obama. I'm a Democrat. I voted for Obama. He's my man. He's my boy. I don't want Michelle to get jealous. She finds I don't want her. You know, I think Obama is an incredibly charismatic man, smart. Yeah,
I think he's honest, and I think what he's tried to do. Look, I don't agree with everything he's done.
No.
But I don't agree with anyone 100% of the time.
But they don't let him do his job in the Congress.
Yeah, I mean, the Congress, I mean, they should. You know, I mean, you have people like Ted Cruz filibustering. You have
Help me, God.
I think it's a little ridiculous what they did. I think they basically tried to run out the clock every single time on him. And now look, I don't know if Hillary gets elected or if someone like Bernie Sanders or O'Malley, who's running, who's a Democrat, if they get elected, I don't know if they're going to do the same thing. I mean, they impeached, you know, Hillary's husband.
Right.
I mean, for a ridiculous thing.
Right. Well, not so small. Oh, we're running with the credits because I couldn't swear, Gloria, that I seen the credits going a couple of times and I didn't know. Of course, it gets a little challenging when you go back and forth with the, what do you call it, the video switcher. Sometimes when we're switching and we don't know, it gets a little crazy. So I've seen a little bit of that, and I didn't know what's going on. But still, we're gonna keep going because it's 7:40. And before we wrap it up, we're going to continue because now this is the first half hour. And I wanted to thank Charles Casano, obviously, Alex De Romero, Darren Mode in England, Darren, Maria, Nacho Guevara, my photographer and dear friend, cameraman, Winston. There's a lot of people that I'm working on a weekly basis. Jeffrey De Romero, the support, the love, the work. Malik, he was our facilitator tonight. Freddie was a facilitator yesterday, and Gloria. I just gotta, it's a sense of awareness that if we don't have a team, I'm dead.
Well, the half an hour goes by quick.
It goes really quick. So we're gonna continue. We're gonna keep going. Where were we? Oh, Hillary Clinton. And people they're fed up to a certain degree with the Clintons, are they? I want to vote for Hillary. I like her. I think she's remarkable. I think she knows the Congress. I think she knows what I love about her is that she has the impeachment. You got me there. This is what you see. We're not going to get into that. I don't know how small that was, but she's smart. This woman, she knows about foreign politics. She knows what's going on in the world.
Yeah, she's definitely qualified. I think.
But it doesn't mean that people want to. There's a lot of people who think the Clintons. They have a lot of money. They have a lot of power. It's time for a change. But on the other hand, is 8 years of Democrats, and Obama, even though he's my man, still, like I said, numbers are decreasing in terms of approval. I think it's going to be a challenge for them.
Yeah, I think Bernie Sanders is a big challenge too, because I think the Democratic Party has moved to the left. I think people do want to hear, how are we going to get good jobs? How are we going to make sure we increase the minimum wage? How are we going to, we have states, gutting their labor laws. How are we going to have a president who's going to protect middle class and working class people? And so I think she's got to talk about that. I think the other thing is, I think people are wary that, look, you have a Bush running, you have a Clinton running, that this is a democracy. This isn't, these aren't dynasties that we're building, that we're passing it between different families. And they're the only ones who get to run for president. And I think people are concerned about that.
It's a political machine. It's political. It's kind of scary because you feel like, wait a minute, are we having other options, really?
Yeah. But I do think if Hillary is the nominee, I think she's definitely qualified, and I think she's a good candidate. I think the Democrats nationally are very, very strong.
Now, let me ask you, because I want to squeeze you, baby. I want to squeeze you. You're loaded, but I need to get all the information I want. Number one, do you think she becomes a president? Do you think this country is ready for a woman?
Yes.
Are we ready?
Yeah, I think, why wouldn't we?
In Costa Rica, we had a female president, and I interviewed her
2
years ago, man. And the government, God help me, it was really, honestly, it was not considered to be.
Great Britain has had a female president.
And so is Nicaragua, and so is Germany. Well, Germany, this woman, she's an eagle. She can fly. She's one of the most respected women.
Yeah. Oh, she's clear. Look, I don't think, I think whenever there's something new, people ask that question. So when Barack Obama, was America ready for a black president? Look, we were. The majority of us were. Yeah, there are some people who are racist. There are some people who are stuck in the past. And I'm sure there'll be some of those same people who are sexist and stuck in the past for Hillary. But I think the majority of America is definitely ready. So, not that I get to choose any of these things, or I think any great insight onto any of these things, but I think, I think people are ready to elect a female president.
How do we get better? How do we learn about politics? You're a writer. You're a writer, baby. You're a writer.
I think politics, I think it's just getting active locally is the first thing. Because if you know what's going on in your block, you know what's going on in your neighborhood, you know what's going on in your city, you can connect to people. I think when people
they wanted to connect. They contact.
And so when I wrote my play is about politics.
Let's talk about your play.
It takes place in one room, and it takes place in a campaign office the night before and morning of the Democratic primary. And it's a city council race that they're dealing with. And the reason why I did that, and I could have made it a mayoral race or a district attorney race, something that's a little bigger, a congressional race, something that's a little sexier for people. But I wanted it to be, really small because I want that hyper local, that people understand that these guys are in this very little world, but it's very important to them. Just like I'm sure there are people in your apartment building or on your block that they're going out and doing something that nobody knows what they're doing, but to them, it's very important and it matters. And I think that's how most interactions throughout the day, because most of us aren't going to end up being presidents or chairman of the board of some major company or running some big firm or doing those kind of things or being a big movie star. We're going to have these small personal interactions with people in our neighborhoods, our cities, in the work that we do. And I think that's how people understand each other. And so when I was writing that was a very important aspect. And I mean, the play, and not to give it away, I mean, it's already ended its run at Storm, and it had a small run, it had a one night only at the Brooklyn Academy of Music in the winter, and we're hoping to do it again soon, but the play pivots on that it's September 11th. Okay. And that's a true story, that the day, September 11th in 2001, it was the day of the New York City primary. And I was trying to do kind of a metaphor for, you had these young guys in Brooklyn working on this campaign, and it was very important to them and what they were doing. And then you had these young guys somewhere else going off and doing something that was going to change the world that day. And how are there these parallels? And, the play kind of, it turns on, it starts out if these young guys are going to slander their opponent to try to win this election. Okay. And then, when they find out the towers have been hit and what they're going to do and how they realize about radicalism and how you can kind of build your own self up and decide that we must do this, we must win, we must move forward, and you're in a bubble and you can't kind of see outside yourself. And I think that happens all the time, and I think when we were talking about politics before, I think so often people, they get ambitious and they go, I've got to win. It's, I am essential to whatever. Right. It's the same thing,
it's about them instead of the, once
about
again,
the people or about what they got.
About the people. For the people, this is, it becomes like, what it is now when you see the politics and you see all the national.
Well, and you need perspective, that you've got to realize that, no matter who becomes the president of the United States, and I think elections are important. I think it's important differences. Between the Democrats and Republicans, but the sky will not fall about who gets elected, in the sense of things will move on. It's not like there's only one person who can do this job. Now, I think there are sometimes drastic consequences to who we elect president. When we elected George W. Bush, I mean, you had guys go to a place like Iraq and get killed. Young men and women in Iraq and in America who died for what?
And if you see the documentary, have you seen the documentary in Showtime about the vice president?
About Dick Cheney. Yeah, the interview. I did see that.
I couldn't believe it when smart enough to, they asked him at the end if he would do it again. And he said, I would do everything right. What was it?
Yeah, he said he would do everything.
On a heartbeat.
Yeah. I can't believe that. I mean, I think it's our generation's Vietnam. I mean, I think it's a terrible, what we've done in Iraq. I mean, it created ISIS. It created all this. I don't know a lot about foreign policy, but what I read in the paper.
It's out of hand, because this is now, we live in pivotal times. It's not that I read, I trying to take my notes, man, and when I'm reading and I'm checking the news and I see what's going on with ISIS, why are we getting so into ISIS? I don't want to get into that, but it's a big, serious problem, what's going on, because this is.
It will affect all of us, but the likelihood that ISIS is going to do anything in New York is, you're more likely to get hit by a lightning bolt. But but so that's why I think, going back to that, look, I think that they have dire. I don't want to make it sound like whoever wins, it doesn't matter. It does, because people can do, especially if you're the president of the United States.
It will be a difference between who's going to win. Do we know? I mean, let's talk Turkey. The people. Do we know the difference between a Democrat and a Republican?
Yeah, I think there are.
Can we tell?
Yeah, I think there are. I think if Al Gore was elected in 2000, I don't think there's a war in Iraq. You know, and I think that changes the way the world looks today. I think in 1968, you know, when Robert Kennedy was killed, you know, if he becomes president, we probably leave Vietnam a lot earlier. We don't know, but we probably do. But Nixon becomes president, and we're in Vietnam until, you know, the mid-1970s, till almost 1975. And so, I mean, I think that's a big, so those are those big consequences, but that's on the world stage.
And big consequences